So just a little preamble before. I've noticed that some, when speaking to the public here, do come across a little bit more truthful, believable and authentic when speaking their story from the heart, from a felt experience. They can speak in a flow state, which is far more authentic and even entertaining, more than a person who has to stick to a regimented version they've wrote down on paper with pen. And by attempting to stick to a script, the tone and tempo of the speaker has to be done separately in the brain to a section that has to read, scan, and then separately compute the output and voice. The former idea is better because it is a flow state and requires seemingly only the output. Now that I had to write down, but I wrote it down because I'd noticed by trying to do this story that when I tried to read it out from what I'd wrote, it never came across as good as me just flowing with it from what I knew I'd already written down, you see. So I had to come at the story from a different angle. I'd done the story twice and I'd found that it sounded like I was doing an introduction about fucking 5 times with it. But that was literally because I was in a flow state and it didn't seem like I was reading out the story. So anyway.
Hope so, man.
Don't get angry. Don't get angry. Don't get angry. Don't get angry.
Bing bong! This is a public service announcement. Bing bong! Allow me to introduce the characters, set the scene, and take your tickets by way of the like button. With this introduction, I'm going to kind of do a little auditory prologue into the dilemma of this story, because it is a dilemma, a moral dilemma. Now, the omnipotent, all-knowing, everlasting, heaven-dwelling Holy Moly himself, yes, that's right, the author of the world's best-selling book of all time, the Holio Biblio, the Alpha and Omega, the He Who Is, the I Am, the Supreme. If it was a Marvel comic, he'd be known as the One Above All. So, the compassionate and gracious God, abounding in love and faithfulness, forgiving wickedness and rebellion and sin. Due to these parameters, Holy Moly created a devil and a holy bookmakers to place a wager upon the fate of mankind. He bet to the devil, to Satan, that in 3,000 years mankind would keep the covenant, God would keep out of the way, he would not communicate with mankind, and mankind would keep the covenant. The devil said mankind would fall into the gutters well before 3,000 years. And so the story begins. Have you ever been that hungry that you bit into a sandwich and you bit your fingers for some reason? Okay, so just to get into your head before I start telling what I'm going to say, this is the first time I've ever put out into the universe anything that I've wrote down, so give me a break if I'm a little bit shit at orating and narrating. I'm pretty much popping my cherry here, so give us a break.
To set the scene, we must rewind the hands of time for Violet's tale.
I'd like to just state for the record that I am not a God botherer. I'm a God botherer's son. I'm only bothering God till the God botherer comes. Now ordinarily I'm not a God botherer. I seem to have a hard time reconciling the fact that God specifically said he rested on the seventh day, yet most of the Catholic Church and others choose to go praying and bothering him on that Sunday, the day he rested. Now, the Orthodox had this right, you know. Let's say the Polish Orthodox Catholics, for example. Their Holy Sabbath day is Saturday, called Sabbata, or whatever it's called. It means Sabbath day anyway. So he said keep that day holy. And so what the Roman pagans did, who worshipped the sun, they reappropriated the holy day, twisted it around, and got everyone stupid enough to start going worshipping and praying on the holy day of the sun day, the day that was made named after their sun god. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm just going to say out right now, I'm not normally a God botherer. I'm just not into it. The odd occasions that I do go, I've got a good friend who's in a really cool band, and he does the church band. Like, he does a God bothering band, and I go for that because they have the choir with it sometimes, and it's really serene. I end up leaving feeling really uplifted and chilled out, and weight dropped off my shoulders. So I often, well, when I do go, it's for those reasons. I'm not into the singing, the hymns and all, you know. I sit at the back, I feel a bit weird. But I do go to church because I've got morals, you know, sort of like, and it's a good place to meet chicks. Like, you often see a girl and you think, God's plan, procreation, and you think, she looks like she could do with a good procreating, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, don't say I don't have morals. So there we go. And let's get into it. Just so you know, this is the first ever time I've ever bared my creative soul to the public on this channel, doing something other than GTA gameplay. I'm gonna produce one of my stories, the first time I've done a short story in this fashion. Now, the following tale is a tragedy with themes of betrayal, addiction, tragedy and manipulation. Ordinarily, if you're a normal person, you're going to find some of this subject matter a little bit on the upsetting side, unless you're one of those sicko schadenfreude, take pleasure in other people's misfortune freaks. Yous are going to love it. But other than that, let's get on with it. And speaking of storytelling, it reminds me of a joke I made up recently. It's probably been created before, but let's go. So, Shakespeare, he walks into a pub and the landlord says, "Get out, you bard." Get it? Anyway, let's go. One final thing before we start. Again about religion. Say like the last 1,000 years, the Catholic Church has had us all prostrating ourselves and asking for forgiveness, and us lousy humans, we're not worthy, due to the fact of original sin, due to the fact that the omnipotent, perfect, all-knowing God happened to create an Eve that was so daft she got tricked by a magical snake in the garden to do the one thing that she was told not to do, which was to eat, or to trick Adam into eating the apple. And so by that fact, we've all had to live in original sin, and we need salvation. Now, surely God could have just got his little eraser out, gone, rubbed that one out, and gone to start again.
Failure.
That's going to be a bit of a fuck up for eternity, isn't it? Let's just start again, seeing as I'm an omnipotent mother flipper. So that one's always like rubbed me the wrong way. What's that all about, huh? So, just to set the scene further, the characters introducing the guy from the band, I'm gonna just call him Guy for anonymity, and the other dude, the dude the story revolves around, is quite a normal guy, everyday kind of working class guy, so we're just gonna call him Norm, short for Norman. The Sunday before Easter, it was one of those irregular occasions that I had the energy and enthusiasm enough to get up and think, you know what, I'll go and harass God on his day off and sing praise hallelujah with all the rest of the maniacs. That'll be great. I bet he'll love it. Let's go. So anyway, I went, but after it was all done, I was speaking to my mate Guy, and Guy was telling me something he was horrified about learning from Norman. So, once upon a time in your imagination, 2011, Norman was 35. He was a bit of an alcoholic. His life was going nowhere. He had a reasonably safe job being a tower crane driver in the northwest of England, but Norman had found himself in a situation many other people find themselves in by way of he works hard, he plays hard, and he drinks hard, and it leaves little other time for himself after his 12-hour shift to do those three things and to search out something more, something deeper. So that's all that Norm had, his work and his drink and his sleep. Such a miserable existence, and he didn't know it until he knew it. So, for 12 hours a day and for 6 days a week, Norm would somehow manage to get himself off to work, somehow manage to get himself up 100 metres or more of steps up to his cabin on his crane. He'd unpack his rucksack, he'd take out 3 bottles, 2 quarter bottles of migraine-inducing whisker, and a third miscellaneous bottle. You'll have to use your imagination for that purpose. Bear in mind he's stuck up in that cabin all day. Day in and day out, Norm would sit in the crane's control cabin on his big comfy seat. The plush 8-inch thick leather skin adjustable seat was made for comfort, and due to Norm's hard working it had 2 loaf of bread sized indentations that met in the middle in the shape of a mohawk, ergonomically designed especially for Norman. From first thing in the morning, as soon as Norman got to work, if not before work, he would be drinking the whisker to stave off the effects of the previous day. Once that excuse was utilised, Norm would continue to drink for reasons such as breaking the monotony of this ever-repetitive career choice he's chosen. Norman would get busy drowning out his misery by picking shit up, putting shit down, picking shit up, putting shit down, picking his bottle up, drinking his vile whisker, crying, and repeat. Due to his solitary and lonely work environment, it did afford him the ability to drink hard all day long whilst he was in work, and then he'd further drink hard after work, so it'd be a whole binge all day for 6 days a week. His diet was terrible, his health was getting really bad. He'd been doing and living his life like this for the previous 10 years since he was 25. Hey, how you doing? My name is Nam, and I'm an alcoholic. Now I began to drink to drown out the nightmare of what became of my first marriage. Things began all right. You see, she was a real dame, and I was a sucker for long legs, and I wanted to shimmy up hers like a native boy looking for coconuts. Yes, sirree, Bob, I did, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Now, before it all went to shit, I'd like to go back in time to see myself, and I'd kick myself right in the dick, and I'd say, "Come on now, boy, you gotta get out of here. Come on, man, just keep going, don't turn around, don't look back. This girl is a nightmare. She'll take your soul, she'll take your house, she'll take your money, she'll leech everything and leave you for dead. Just get the fuck on out of here, boy. It's just the best and only advice you ever take from me. Just take it and go. Now, Norm's perpetual pity party is seemingly deeply rooted in comparisons with his current station in life compared to his expectations of where he thought his life would lead when he was a teenager. Furthermore, Norman would be forever torturing himself with the idea that his friends that he grew up with, they'd all moved on into great jobs, great careers, great families, 2, 3 kids, a dog, a cat, a goldfish, a wife on Prozac. Everyone's grinning inanely in serenity and bliss with their perfect lives. None of this was true, but it was just the way that Norman saw the world because of the little pleasures or the zero pleasures in life that he had. So Norm might well be the official, legitimate archetype of the loneliest tower crane driver in the world. He's the pity party president. He is the pity Olympics gold medalist, world record holder. This man has no bounds when it comes to feeling sorry for himself. He will drink and drink and drink himself until, well. But despite all this, things unknowingly to Norman were about to change immensely for the better. His financial situation, his love and family dynamics would all be blessed. But first, things had to get a lot worse. Now it's important to make note of his alcoholism here, and to take note that, as a promotion, breweries, vendors, licensed bars were often doing promotions where beer tokens could be purchased in advance at great discounts, so that when the holder of redeemable tickets choose, they can, instead of cash, pay for their beverages with their beer/beverage included tickets or tokens. It was a no-brainer. No-brainer for a lonely, alcoholic crane driver. A city/countrywide bar tab at participating vendors. Now in 2013, Norman had lost his job and told never to collect his belongings from his box. Suddenly, due to his boss, when one day Norm was again late for work, so the boss man had to do the crane himself that morning. He found the lonely box was awash with empty bottles of whiskey and other miscellaneous bottles with what looked like whiskey but in fact was something else. Incidentally, this miscellaneous liquid probably tasted better than the cheap whiskey that he brought to work every day. Now, realistically, Norman's boss probably had legitimate reasons to sack him, not only because of the alcohol, but he had, due to the alcohol, made some quite costly, expensive errors of judgment, let's say, and caused quite a bit of damage over the last few years. But it felt particularly strange to Norman. Norm used to chill out and drink with his boss. His boss never normally had an issue with regards to the drinking. So Norm, he just accepted it and had to move on. Now, Norm's first week of unemployment began with a bit of relief. No more stress of getting to work, going to work. He was starting to feel nausea, going up the ladders, and a bit of fatigue. And he never normally felt much of it. It just recently, he just thought it's come down to the work. But he'd been getting some abdominal pains as well, and increasingly it was getting more painful as the days went by. He booked himself an appointment, and within a couple of weeks he got to see his doctor, and he did some bloods. And when the bloods came back, it turned out there was an issue with his liver. And then it turned out there was a big issue with his liver. The reason why he was feeling fatigued, nausea, and stomach pains is cirrhosis of the liver. Things had got pretty serious pretty quick, and it was a harrowing time, let's just say that, for him. Now, during that time period, Norman had endured several months of immense physical and emotional trauma. It was a real ordeal, apparently. He'd eventually gone and got some liver surgery, got a piece of his liver removed, was on massive medications, and he was in months and months of recovery. And by consequence of his illness, Norman like any sane person, questioned God, questioned his own mortality, questioned the unfairness of it all. Incidentally, by going to church, he'd found a good bunch of friends, a good strong support group. Due to his cowardly drive to stay alive, Norman had ultimately ended up being 3 years sober. Now, 3 years post-recovery, Norman is having a new lease of life. He's like literally born again. He gets the all clear from his doctors, starts looking for work again, finds work, gets back into the craning business. He does find it hard to get back into the rhythm of things, but eventually he finds his way. He gets there and starts earning money again. He was truly born again. Now, by earning money again, his confidence grew. He started dating again. He'd met a really nice woman at church, and things were going really well. And so, all this good stuff post recovery, his health, the relationship. I think he'd got married in that period because he had 2 kids. They'd settled down. I think they were paying a mortgage off in a 3 bedroomed house. All was going absolutely swimmingly. There was a weird thing that kept occurring with his boss. His old boss kept on trying to get back in his life. There was something to do with when Norman was a hardcore drinker. Everyone at work used to have these beer tokens they'd buy when they got paid, and then at dinner times they wouldn't have to have cash on them. They'd go to a specific few bars in the city centres where they worked, and they'd use the tokens and they'd drink. Now, it turns out Norm's boss was gonna give him his old position back, and it was a quite highly paid position with in that industry. But he kept quizzing Norman about these tokens. Um, if he gave him the job back, Norman would have to give his boss, because he didn't drink anymore, the sort of passcode for his token so they could be used by other workers. So for some reason, I'm not technically savvy, but for some reason there was a key he had to give to the boss, some kind of numerical key, like a lock. So the boss was showing him this specific beverage inclusive tokens. And Norman, as he was describing it to Guy, it's like it was a weird thing. It was like a B for beer, but like a money symbol, with like 2 lines going through it, like a dollar sign, but for beer, and it had the abbreviation for beverage included tokens. So he told all this to Guy. Guy's telling me, and I don't know if by me telling you now, you're realising what we started to realise. But then we realised what we realised, and if you're not onto it yet, I'm going to give you a little picture clue up on the screen in a minute. So this is the beverage included tokens. The dimension he had 400 tokens. Now this is really what's going on. 400 tokens. And the current Bitcoin prices, that would take that 400 to around £20 million. And he's just gave it to his boss. His boss tricked him into thinking Bitcoin, standing for beverage included tokens. And because Norman was such a dope piss pot back in the day, he didn't even realise what he was giving away. He thought he was giving away some beers to get back in the good books with his new boss. Now, so the dilemma is, Norm's moved on. Norm doesn't have that lifestyle anymore. Shall we tell him? Shall we tell him what's actually happened, or shall we leave him in ignorant bliss? You know, what do you do? And so that's the dilemma of the beverage included tokens, end of part 1. If you would like to know what happened next, let me know. Don't let me know. I'm psychic. If you send me psychic vibrations, I'll know. So just know that I'll know. And so moving on, next installment coming soon. Keep your eye out. Everyone take care. Bye.
May 10th. Thank God for the rain, which has helped wash away the garbage and the trash off the sidewalks. I'm working long hours now. 6 in the afternoon to 6 in the morning, sometimes even 8 in the morning. It's a long hustle, but it keeps me real busy.
When you were before,
All the animals come out at night.
couldn't look you in the eye.
Whores, skunk pussies, buggers, dopers, junkies.
You're just like an angel.
Someday a rail rain will come and wash all this scum off the streets.
Skin makes
I think that the president should just clean up this whole mess here. He should just flush it right down the fucking toilet.
like a feather
That taxi driver's been staring at us.
in a beautiful world.
I think that you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
I wish I was
I
special.
think you're a lonely person. And I think you need something.
You're so
And if you want to call it a friend, you can call it a friend.
You're gonna be my friend?
But I'm a creep.
Loneliness has followed me my whole life.
I'm a widow.
Everywhere. In bars and cars. There's no escape.
I don't belong here.
And God's a lonely man.
It's okay for you.
12 hours of work and I still can't sleep.
I wanna have control.
Days go on and they don't end.
I want a perfect body.
All my life needed was a sense of someplace to
I
go.
want a perfect soul.
I believe that someone should become a person like other people.
I want you to notice
I don't believe I've ever met anyone quite like you.
when I'm not around.
My whole life is pointed in one direction. I see that now.
So fucking special.
There never has been any choice for me.
I really,
I wish I
After
was
you.
special.
I really want to, I got some bad ideas in my head.
I'm a creep.
The idea had been growing in my brain for some time. Listen, you fuckers, you screwheads. Here is a man who would not take it anymore. A man who stood up against the scum, the cunts, the dogs, the filth, the shit. Here is someone who stood up. Here he is. God's lonely man.
You're in a hell. You're gonna die.